Good morning. Welcome to Old Man Energy. I'm your host, Flint Anderson, and this is not going to be what I intended to talk about today. I want to do an episode on perspective versus perception, but I don't think that's what I'm going to talk about this morning. I've got some stuff to share with you guys, and I think this lesson might hit home in a lot of different ways. So let's get right into it. It's been a while. I've been kind of inconsistent in my posting. Not happy about that. As a matter of fact, I kind of beat myself up over it on a fairly regular basis. Well, I got to do this. I want to do that. Ideas haven't stopped flowing, just the backlog and the excuses for not recording and posting and doing what I needed to do continued to pile up. But a lot of times we look at excuses, but we call them reasons. I made a post on my LinkedIn about this a while back. I've been talking about it because I had to make some pretty major changes for myself personally to become who I really wanted to become. Mosey talks about this. I've heard a couple of others since then. I don't know who originated it, so I'll give credit to the person I heard it from first. And it was a short, but it hit home. It made me think, and it started a snowball effect that has really had drastic impact on my life. And the quote, while I'm going to probably bastardize it, is this. Said he was talking about fitness, and I guess he was talking to one of his guys, but he said, ask him if he'd gone to the gym, if he'd worked out, if he did what he needed to do. And the guy kept saying no. There was all these reasons, which ultimately turned out to be excuses. So I finally looked at him and he said, well, if you're not going to do what you say you want to do, then quit acting like you want to and just accept the fact that you're always going to be the way you are now. Again, while that's not the exact quote, and it's not as pretty as a lot of other people have said it, the impact was profound. Not only from a fitness journey, but from a relationship journey, from a business journey, from all of it. All too often, and I'm just as guilty as everyone else, we find ourselves saying we want things because they're pretty or they're shiny or we think we're supposed to, and yet we don't actually do the work to make them happen. Or worse, and I mean that because that's what happened with me, is we do the work, we get frustrated, we get to the boring part of it, and then we go chasing shiny new objects, or we start to accept excuses from ourselves that we really should never have been accepting in the first place. I was consistent with the podcast for the first couple of years. The last year has been absolutely abysmal. Still good content, still posting fairly regularly on social media, but I've been treating it like a hobby and not like an actual business. Now, the ironic piece of that is that it's brought some incredibly powerful relationships into my life. It's brought some business into my life. And while I was feeling like a failure, if I look at the actual numbers, I wasn't, because of the amount of time that I put in. The return has been exponential from this. I just hadn't gotten good at it. I'd look at something and be like, man, it's overwhelming. And we all suffer from information fatigue and now from AI fatigue. There's so much out there that it's sometimes easier just to look at it and go, well, I don't want to deal with that because it's too much to learn. And so we shut down. That's a whole nother podcast in and of itself. But it's kind of what happened on my end is I would get to the point where, okay, here's an editing tool and here's social media going, oh, and everything on the internet. Well, here's 4,000 different editing tools, and here's why this one's great and this one's bad. And here's 22 articles that agree with you and 4,000 that don't. And I want you to buy this and I want you to do that, to the point where even inside the recording studio and the platforms, in an attempt to make everything easier, we've made life harder. We haven't made it harder to succeed. We've made it harder to pay attention to what we need to pay attention to succeed. And this goes back to, decision fatigue. When we have two choices, it's easy to make a choice. When we have three or more, then we're so scared of making the wrong choice that we often put off making the right choice. And that's not a good thing. Now, you compound that with human nature. We're paralyzed. We don't know what to do. We don't know what the right thing to do is. And yet we're so afraid of making a wrong decision that we won't make a right one. And like the old song says, that if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. And as a result, we end up not getting as much done as we could. We end up not doing what we need to do. And we end up not getting what we need to get, our goals or whatever. Well, is there a solution for this? I don't know if there's a good one or not, but I'm going to share with you guys what I've been doing. First of all, I had to get real honest with myself. I had to sit down. And I literally sat down at the table. You can kind of see in the background, my big head's hiding it. And I had a discussion with myself. I looked at it and said, well, what do I really want? And what am I willing to work for? And I wrote it down. And the first list was garbage. It was everything that I thought I was supposed to want, everything that I'd been told This is what you should get. This is what you need. This is who you should be. It was a whole list of, I hate the term pie in the sky, but it was a whole list of other people's pie in the sky vision for my life. And it were so many pieces that I was running around not actually doing anything. And I was so clouded with all these great ideas that I wasn't even working towards what I really wanted. I thought about it for a while. I thought about it for a couple of days. And then I went back and looked at it and read it and thought about it every day and was like, well, what did I do? What do I really want? I mean, is this me? Which one of these is me? And all of them still, I had that dopamine spike by reading them and thinking, oh, that'd be great. Oh, that'd be great. Oh, that'd be great. I want to be this guy. I want to do that. None of it did I really want. So when I got real honest with myself, and there was another step to this too, and I was hesitant to talk about this, and I don't know why, but when I start explaining, you guys are going to understand. So I'm going to come back to how I got down to what I really wanted, and I'm going to talk about the fact that one of the things that I knew that I wanted was I wanted to be the absolute best person that I could be. And in and amongst there had some health issues, nothing crazy, just stuff I've been dealing with for a while. This is still really hard to talk about, which is odd because I've been talking about it for a while now. But realized that I wanted to be healthy, be able to play with my grandkids, and with my oldest granddaughter being almost 19 now, wanted to be able to play with my great grandkids because we are young grandparents. And yeah, while I was working out, and you see my workout videos, it wasn't as consistent, and I wasn't getting anywhere, and I wasn't getting any healthier. Still continuing to gain weight, but not in a good way. Just all the different things. And it dawned on me, I was like, okay, I had to sit down and I had to ask myself, one, what do I really want? And that list is amazingly short. I want my businesses to be successful. I want to be known as a man of integrity. And I have some specific ways that I want them run, and I won't get into all of that here. I want to teach other people to be successful and help people with the same transitions executive specifically that I've done in my life. I want to use my wisdom. I want to use my experience and all the shit that I've fucked up over the years, and I want to help other people. That's really what I wanted. And when I admitted that, I thought I was done. I was like, oh, man, that's good. And I walked away. And folks, that's just the beginning. Setting goals, which realistically is what we're talking about, but doing it in a different manner. Now you got to deal with implementation. And implementation is not the same thing as telling other people about it, as telling yourself what you really want, as doing all the things. It's not, implementation is deciding what you're going to do every day. Milet calls these standards in his book. If you haven't read Rule One More, whatever the exact title is, I'm going to encourage you to go read it. You got to decide what you're going to do every day, because again, go back to that quote that I used at the beginning. If you really want to do something, then you need to actually do it. Otherwise, let yourself off the hook and stop saying that you want to do it and then go on about your business. Well, turns out I did want to be in shape. I did, but it wasn't traditional. Okay, I want to be a bodybuilder. I want to be a power lifter. I want to have a six pack. I want to have this. When I sat down and thought about it, when it truly spoke to me, all I wanted to do was walk in and just be the strongest that I possibly could be. I want to be known as the guy who can walk over, who can pick up heavy shit and move it around, and that's it. I want to go move it. I want to move heavy shit in the gym. I wanted, when I walk in the room, I want people to know that I'm strong. Period. That was it. I want to not just know that I'm strong. I want to actually be strong. Ian Smith talks about this and calls it tard strength. Send him a message on that because that really hit home. It was funny, and that might offend some people. Sorry, that's just the way it is. It's not meant to be offensive, and in our generation, that's the way we describe some of that. It's really, really strong. So it was one of the things that I wanted to do. The other thing I wanted to do was spend time with my grandkids. I wanted to be there for my grandkids. Another thing that I really, really wanted to do was I wanted absolute and perfect freedom. And that means freedom of my own schedule, which I already have. Freedom to do whatever I wanted to do, which I have had and haven't recently because we've had some setbacks and some challenges and some things we had to overcome and are still in the middle of working. But that's really the only two things that matter to me. And I'm not discounting family. I'm not discounting relationships. I'm not discounting any of that. But what I'm talking about is the only way that you can have all that other stuff is to get super honest with yourself. And I had to do this about what I specifically wanted, what mattered to me. Because you're not going to get your ass up off the couch and go chase somebody else's dreams. You may talk about it. You may make plans. You may draw pretty pictures, but you're not actually going to do anything about it. So you got to get real honest with yourself about who you are, about what you want. And once you cut through all the bullshit and cut through everything else out there, write down specifically what you want, and only focus on the stuff that you're willing to work for. And that brings me to the next point. What are you willing to work for? What are you willing to do once you have that list refined? And that list is probably not going to be long. It's probably only going to be 2 or 3 things. I told you about the strength. I told you about the absolute freedom. And that's pretty much it. What am I willing to do to make it happen? One of the things that I had to do to make that happen is I had to quit drinking. I never considered myself an alcoholic, but the amount that I drank did put me in a high risk level and has for years. But I was hesitant to talk about it. I just stopped one day. As a matter of fact, a couple Saturdays ago, it was actually a Friday night, and I could tell you the exact date, but I don't remember it off the top of my head right now. I realized that what I was doing wasn't serving me. There's no great tragedy. I didn't get in a wreck. I didn't trash my vehicles. I didn't get a DUI. None of that happened. Just realized that what I was doing wasn't serving either one of my goals. And not only that, it was actively pulling away from a couple of them, because being as strong as possible means I have to be as healthy as possible. And I wasn't being healthy. And could I control it? Could I not control it? Those questions started to pop up in my mind. And then the shame, which was a really weird thing, because I never considered myself an alcoholic. Still actually don't, because when I put it down, I walked away from it. I didn't have to pour everything out. There's still beer in the fridge, whiskey on the liquor cabinet. I mean, there's all that stuff still there. I just said, you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. It doesn't serve me. Is it forever? I don't know. Maybe. Is it not? I don't know. I know it's for at least 30 to 75 days, maybe longer. I feel great. I'm clear headed, but it was hard. That decision so far was one of the hardest. I was to the point where I was deciding what restaurant I wanted to eat at based on the kind of beer that they had. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't so I could get drunk. At least I didn't think it was. It was because I really liked beer. And I like different flavors, and I like different flavors of whiskeys, and all the different things that are associated with that. And I thought that I was going to have a hard time not doing it. And it actually was scary, which is weird for a guy my age, because it shouldn't have been terrifying. And terrifying is probably not the right word. It was just like, oh man, what about this? What about that? And what I found is that the next day, which would have been a Saturday, had a couple of beers with lunch. And while it tasted the same, mentally I was already in a different space. Haven't touched it since. And there was no drama associated with it. It was just like, okay, well, I'm not doing that anymore. And that Sunday, I did my research, wanted to make sure I was being healthy, needed to give my body the tools to repair itself, because then it was about the health side of things. Because remember, we wrote that down. I want to be as strong as possible, want to be as healthy as possible, so I can be there for my grandkids and watch my kids get married and do all the things. So I started working, started researching, started looking at that, and I was like, man, I've been a pretty heavy drinker for a while, so I need to watch out for these withdrawal symptoms. And I had a few of them. I didn't have the DTs, and I didn't go through the hell that a lot of people that have been heavy drinkers, thank goodness, have to go through. And for those of you that have quit any type of addiction and successfully stayed off of it, more power to you. My God, this was not a struggle for me, but I can understand how it's a struggle for some people. And I am so lucky that the abuse that I've done to myself over the years did not lead me to that. But I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to tell anybody. And that right there was a pretty big red flag, because, well, why not? I talk about freaking everything. My life is very, very public. So there was some shame associated with that. So maybe there was more going on there mentally than I thought. I don't know. But what I found is that as I continued day to day, I was exercising more. I was eating better. Even though I wasn't feeling completely well, I was more consistent, because on the nights that I'd go out and drink, I wouldn't go to the gym the next day, and then I'd feel bad about it. And then it just mentally, it was all fucked up. So that helped. And it's been a few weeks now, very consistent. My mind is different. And this is the real point that I'm coming to here. If you struggle with any kind of chemical addiction, alcohol, drugs, whatever, the physical attributes of what it does are terrible. And if you feel like you need to stop, then I'm going to encourage you to go get the help that you need to stop if you need it. I did not. I was able just to walk away from it, and I'm very grateful for that. But what I've realized as my head has cleared is that a lot of my excuses stemmed from not making good decisions. I was terribly reactionary because I wasn't clear-headed all the time. It became easier to shove my head into the bottom of a bottle, and then when I woke up the next morning, stick it right square up my ass and ignore all the shit that was going on that I needed to be dealing with. And then when something would force my attention, then I would deal with it. And often effectively, often just it was a band-aid or it was the worst possible outcome, but it was the only one I had left because I'd ignored these decisions for as long as I could. Now, was I using that as self-numbing? Was I doing it for that reason? I don't think so, but maybe subconsciously I was, because it was easier than accepting that. Another thing that really struck home, and this one's a little difficult to talk about, but as if none of this has been easy to talk about. My personality, I wasn't allowing myself to be who I really am, because I thought who I really am was mean or aggressive or didn't fit the mental picture of who I thought I was supposed to be. So one thing I'm going to warn you about is, in addition to all the physical changes that are going to happen whenever you start being honest with yourself, in addition to all the mental changes, you're going to have some emotional shit going on too. I'm more aggressive than I've ever been comfortable with. And life tempered that when I was very young. And I started ignoring that when I got older. And there's been a few times where it's been completely unleashed. When I was in my early 20s and I didn't give a shit, didn't have anything to lose. Yeah, that was unleashed. And that's where the foundations for the manual came from. That's where my early successes in the .com industry came from. It's where all of that stuff came from. And somewhere along the way, I got tempered. Then I got numbed. Then I got pussified and decided I needed to ask permission for everything. And there's a whole nother episode based on that. But suffice it to say, as I became more aware of what I was willing to give up and what I was willing to do to hit these very, very few specific things that I wanted out of life, I became very aware that my personality had to go back to being who I truly am. It's a terrifying thing. At least it was for me, because Des and I were talking about this in depth, and her explanation is so much better than mine is I'm a blend of two very different types of personalities. I'm very strong and aggressive, both physically and mentally, very intuitive, but also very patient and very kind. The two don't really belong together. And I focused on the kindness side and the avoidance side, which is what kindness ultimately leads to if you don't couple it with strength. And I felt like I was an asshole and that I was pissed off all the time. But come to realize that's just pure aggression. It's my true personality starting to come out. And that kindness and that kind side tempers that and makes for a very unique interaction with people. And a unique interaction that hadn't been there except in certain circumstances. One thing I did realize, sorry guys, this is a little difficult to talk about. One thing that I did realize is that whenever I was teaching, when I was coaching or mentoring people, that all of those barriers went away. Everything, I was always just clear, mentally focused. And I found that when I was really thinking about it, that the times leading up to all of those sessions, I wouldn't do the things that numbed me. I really always believed, and still do, that the people that I'm leading and mentoring and guiding deserved my absolute level best, and that I would pour into them. And so I would start a day or two ahead of time before it was time to work with these folks, and I would clear my head and I would spend time studying, and I would truly just immerse myself in their sessions and what I was doing for them. And I still do that. What that told me is that that's where my true passion lies. That's where I needed to be. And that's what I should be doing. Now I do that all the time, and I apply it and I apply it to everything. What that does long term is create a situation where now I'm looking at all of the stuff that I've either ignored over the years or done wrong over the years or just put Band-Aids on over the years, and having to walk up and, metaphorically speaking, pull those Band-Aids off, look at those wounds, clean them out, sew them up, and put them together and move on. And that can be overwhelming too whenever you're on this process of self-discovery. And this is the piece that nobody ever talks about, is that everybody, yay, get excited about your goals, get excited about this, get excited about that. The grind is boring, it's hard, and it requires daily for a long time, and I'm not to the end of it yet, admitting where you fuck shit up and having to open it, look at it, and deal with it on a regular basis. Daily, sometimes hourly. And that's a hard pill to swallow. And I'd love to say that there's some good tips and tricks on how to deal with this and that. Well, one of my favorite phrases is you got to learn to solve the top of the Rubik's Cube yourself. There's algorithms for solving the bottom of it, and then it's just memorization. You look like a freaking genius in front of everybody else. Folks, I'd love to give you the algorithms to solve all these problems, but if you start this journey of self-discovery, I'm going to encourage you to do a couple things, because it's the only thing I know that's going to work, is you got to learn to solve a lot of these problems yourself. And they're not that hard. You just got to quit ignoring them, and then you got to face them, and then you got to actually solve them. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's going to lead to a lot less stress in your life. Do that with somebody that can help you. That's easier. Take somebody that you trust. If it's a mentor, awesome. If it's a family member, if it's dad, if it's mom, if it's somebody. If you're an executive, if you're in a higher level position and you hire a coach, make sure that their coach is all in, that your coach is all in. Make sure they're all in on the product of you and that they're going to give you advice, good advice. Make sure that they have the meat on the table, so to speak. These people are not there to make you feel good about yourself. They're there to help you. Be like a football coach that always made the team feel super good even though they were failing. No, their coach is there to push you, is there to make you be better than what you are, is there to make you face the hard shit that you don't want to face and quit taking excuses from yourself. I look for the excuses that I'm making, and I have to admit them. If I've been lying to myself, I have to stop and say, you know what, that's not true. That's a lie. I need to tell myself the truth on this. Oh, well, you know what? That was an excuse. Today's a perfect example, and I'm going to give you this, and I may leave with this because I've been talking for a while, and I want you guys to take some powerful shit away from this. I've got a busy day today. Specifically, I have a bunch of stuff I've got to get done this morning. I need to get to the gym, and I need to work out, but I also need to be in another city this afternoon. Well, I usually go to the gym in the morning. And I didn't do that this morning because I needed to get this. This has been on my heart. I need to get this recorded. I need to get it out because I'm tired of giving myself excuses as to why I'm not being fucking consistent with the podcast. So I didn't. But at the same time, then I started to feel guilty. And that guilt, for me, has often been a crutch because I could feel guilty about something and not do it. Just continue to feel bad about it. Oh, well, I should have done that. So I started to feel guilty about not going to the gym. And I was like, wait a minute. How can I get all this shit done and still be on time? Well, one, I control my schedule. So while some people may not like what I need to do and where the timeline goes, oh well, I have specific things that I need to get done and make them happen in a specific manner. And if that fits their timeline, great. If it doesn't fit their timeline, oh well, then I got to be willing and able to deal with that. That's part of being in the driver's seat. And I'm comfortable with that, but I'm uncomfortable with implementing that. That's a really weird place to be. Number two, I can still go to the gym today and just do it later because I don't have access to all my podcast tools. I have some of them, but I don't have access to all of them when I'm on the road. But I do have access anywhere to a gym. So now this is inconvenient, but needed to be done. I got a bunch of other shit I've got to do this morning before I hit the road. And when I get there, that's going to be inconvenient too because it's going to interfere with some other shit. But you know what? It is what it is. And when you start talking to yourself like you truly believe in yourself and you start acting and implementing like what you're deciding is the most important thing, because ultimately what you're doing is crafting your life, then and only then will you start making choices and making difficult choices that make that happen. Not everybody's going to agree with you. Even sometimes the closest people around you won't agree with you. That's okay. You hold strong to the vision and you move forward. I'll make all this stuff happen today, and the day will end up being a good day. Will there be no strife? No, there's going to be some strife probably. Maybe it won't be too bad. I don't know. But when you start making decisions, other people also start respecting them. They may not be happy about it, but they will respect them and they will follow in. And if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. I don't want to repeat myself, and I don't want to go over and over the same thing. But I want to encourage you to truly define what it is that you want out of your life. This is not setting goals. This is being honest with yourself. This is sitting back, eliminating everything else, and just boiling it down to what do you truly want, and then deciding what you're willing to do to get there. I said I was going to end, but I'm going to share one more story with you. I wanted to go back to the fact that I didn't want to talk about the fact that I'd quit drinking. I think maybe that was a hedge, just in case I decided to start again. And if I didn't tell too many people, well, it didn't look foolish. It's probably what it was. Notwithstanding that, here's the thing. I started sharing with people. And because I've got friends that are in the service industry, friends that are in the bartending industry, just all that different things, I started sharing with them because I didn't take myself out of my environment. I just stopped drinking. Well, in sharing that with one of our friends who's quickly become a close friend, two examples. One of the friends that's a bartender asked why, if there was any particular reason, and it was very easy for me to state, well, because I was drinking too much, and my body wasn't dealing well with the calories and all the fallout from it. Okay, and that was it. There wasn't any flashbang, oh my God, you should try this and that, blah, blah, blah. Just people of conviction expect to be believed. And the second time, and actually was the first interaction I'd had in talking with this particular bartender, he just kind of hung his head and said, I'm dealing with the same thing. I've gotten to the point where I'm drinking every day, and it's not healthy, and I don't feel good. and I got to do something about it. So maybe your story, your struggle can be an inspiration to other people. And I'm going to leave you with this quote from Braveheart. It's one of my favorites. Uncompromising men are easy to admire. And that's really what we're talking about. Whenever you get to the point where you decide what you're going to do and you decide how you're going to live your life and you start making the hard choices and you decide what you're going to give up, what you're going to sacrifice, and what you're going to physically do every day to make these things happen, that becomes apparent to people. And you become an inspiration, even not meaning to, because that's not the reason to do this. But you become an inspiration to other people just by being honest with them and by telling them the truth. And I'm hoping that this story will inspire some of you to move forward and do what you need to do, to truly be honest with yourself about what you want. Let yourself off the hook if you don't pursue those things that you don't want to do, and be brutally aggressive in pursuing the things that you do want to do. You want to hear more about this? Because I'm going to be sharing a lot of this. I'm also going to be going back to sharing some basic information that's come to light recently that people really need in upcoming episodes, and you can start seeing some consistency. I've got all of that stuff that I'm excited about that I've teased in the other episodes. Not sure how I'm going to get it all out here, but I'm going to figure it out, and we're going to make this journey effective together. So like, subscribe, do everything you already know you're supposed to do. And if you're still with me at this point, I love you guys. I believe in you. And until next time, get out there and kill it. Peace.